Margaret Hartford stood at her kitchen window on that cold December morning, watching frost patterns bloom across the glass.
At 68 years old, she'd learned that life rarely followed the script you wrote for it.
But nothing had prepared
her for what her daughter Susan would say a week before Christmas. "Mom, I've been thinking," Susan had said over coffee, her manicured nails tapping against the ceramic mug. "Why don't you just leave all 8 grandkids with Tom and me this Christmas? You've done enough holiday hosting over the years.
Time to rest." Margaret had smiled then, that practiced smile she'd perfected over decades of keeping peace.
"That sounds lovely, dear.
Whatever you think is best." But something in Susan's tone had lingered.
Something that felt less like concern and
more like
convenience.
Still, Margaret pushed the thought away. Susan was busy, a successful real estate agent, always juggling showings and closings. Margaret understood busy. The days passed. Margaret bought fewer groceries.
She wrapped the small gifts as she'd prepared for her grandchildren 8 stockings she'd knitted by hand over the past year, each one unique, each one carrying a grandmother's love stitched into every row. Then came December 24th. The house felt unusually quiet.
Margaret had expected at least a call by noon. Some coordination about when to drop off gifts. Perhaps an invitation to stop by for cocoa. But her phone remained silent. By 3 o'clock. Worry began creeping in like winter cold seeping through.
Old windowsills.
Margaret dialed Susan's number. "Mom, where are you?"
Susan's voice held an edge of panic. "I'm home, dear."
"Where else would I be?"
"You were supposed to be here an hour ago. The kids have been asking for you. Didn't you get my text?"
Margaret pulled her phone from her ear, squinting at the screen. No messages. Her phone was old, sometimes temperamental.
I must have missed it, sweetheart. But you said never mind what I said."
"Mom, it's Christmas Eve."
"The turkey's in the oven. The kids are decorating cookies. And we've all been waiting for you. Can you please just come?"
Margaret's hands trembled as she lowered herself into her reading chair.
"Susan, a week
ago, you specifically said to leave the grandchildren with you.
You said to forget the dinner, the gifts, and
me." Silence stretched across the line.
Then, barely a whisper. "Mom, I never said that. I would never say that. But you did, dear."
"I heard you clearly." More silence.
Then Susan's voice returned, stronger now.
"Mom, I think
we need to talk about something."
"Can you come over?"
"Please?"
The drive to Susan's house took 20 minutes.
Margaret gripped the steering wheel, her mind spinning through that conversation from a week ago, examining it from every angle like light through a prism. When she arrived, Susan met her at the door. Behind her, Margaret could see her son-in-law, Tom, helping the children hang ornaments on a towering spruce.
The scent of cinnamon and pine filled the air. Susan led her to the study and closed the door. "Mom, sit down."
"There's something I need to tell you, and it's going to hurt." Margaret's heart quickened, but she kept her voice steady.
"Go on, dear. That conversation, you remember, it wasn't with me. It was with Beverly, Tom's
younger sister.
The one who'd always been just a touch too familiar, too present in their lives. Beverly came over for coffee last week." Susan continued, her jaw tight.
"I was showing a property.
She was here when you called." She answered. "My phone." The room tilted slightly. "Why would she?" "Because she's been having an affair with Tom."
The words landed like stones in still water, sending ripples through everything Margaret thought she understood. "I found out 3 days ago." Susan's voice cracked. "Text messages.
Late night calls.
It's been going on for almost a year."
"And that conversation she had with you. It wasn't about lightening your load, Mom. It was about keeping you away so she could play house here on Christmas with my husband and my children." Margaret reached for her daughter's hand.
"Oh, Susan, I confronted Tom yesterday.
He admitted everything."
"He's moving out after Christmas. Beverly's been calling nonstop, but I blocked her number." Susan's eyes filled with tears. "When you called today saying you thought I told you to stay away, everything clicked into place."
"She impersonated me, Mom. She wanted you gone too." In that moment, Margaret felt something shift inside her, not anger. Not yet, but a crystalline clarity. She was a grandmother, a mother, and she had been deliberately pushed aside to make room for betrayal. "What do you need from me?" Margaret asked quietly. Susan looked up, surprised by the calmness in her mother's voice. I need you to be here with us, like you always have been." Margaret stood, smoothing her skirt. "Then that's what I'll be. But first, we're going to handle this with grace. Not for Beverly or Tom, for you and those children out there." Christmas Eve dinner was subdued but warm.
The children, sensing something amiss but sheltered from the details, clung closer to their mother and grandmother.
Tom ate in silence, avoiding everyone's eyes. After the meal, Margaret gathered the children around the fireplace. She distributed the stockings she'd made, watching their faces light up as they discovered the small treasures tucked inside handwritten notes, favorite candies, tiny photo albums of their year together. Your grandmother loves you, Margaret said softly.
More than all the stars in the winter sky.
And that love doesn't change, not with distance, not with difficulty, not ever. That night, after the children were asleep, Margaret sat with Susan in the quiet kitchen. I've made a decision, Margaret said.
I'm selling my house. Susan's
head snapped up. What? M.O.M. No, let me finish.
I am selling my house and buying the colonial 2 blocks from here.
The one with the big backyard. But that's too much house for one person.
Perhaps.
But it's perfect for a grandmother who wants to be close to her daughter and grandchildren during a difficult transition.
And it has a lovely garage.
Apartment that could be rented too.
Oh, I don't know. A newly single mother who might appreciate some help with childcare.
Susan's eyes filled with fresh tears.
M.O.M., I can't ask you to. You are not asking. I'm choosing. There's a difference. They sat together in comfortable silence. 2 women who'd learned that family wasn't just about blood. It was about showing up. Especially when showing up was hard. As for Beverly, Margaret handled her with the quiet dignity that had always been her hallmark. When Beverly finally appeared at Susan's door 2 days after Christmas, demanding to be heard, Margaret answered. Beverly, she said calmly, you tried to erase me from my family's Christmas.
You lied.
You betrayed.
And you did it thinking I was too old, too irrelevant to matter. Margaret stepped closer.
But here's what you didn't understand. A grandmother's love isn't diminished by cruelty. It's strengthened by purpose.
My purpose now is to be present for the family you tried to destroy, and I will be here every day. A reminder that kindness endures and truth prevails. Beverly left without another word. 6 months later, Margaret
stood in the backyard of her new home, watching Susan push the youngest grandchildren on the swing set she'd had installed. Laughter rang through the summer air like bells. The divorce had been finalized. Tom had moved across town.
And while the healing wasn't complete, it was happening slowly, steadily, like spring following winter. Susan caught her mother's eye and smiled a real smile. The first in months. Margaret smiled back, understanding now that life's betrayals, while painful, also carried unexpected gifts.
They revealed who truly mattered.
They clarified what was worth fighting for, and sometimes they brought families closer together than they'd ever been before. That evening, as fireflies began their dance across the lawn, Margaret's oldest granddaughter climbed into her lap. Grandma, I'm glad you live close now. So am I, sweetheart. So am I. And in that moment, Margaret knew that no amount of distance anyone tried to create could ever diminish the bonds that truly mattered.